The moment I met Jason, it felt like every romantic tale I'd ever read had come to life. The setting was an art gallery in downtown, an evening where young artists showcased their work. The air was filled with the smell of fresh paint and the gentle hum of quiet conversations. "Do you believe every painting has a story?" a deep voice asked from behind me. I turned to find hazel eyes looking intently at a modern abstract piece. "Every painting is a world in itself," I replied, meeting his gaze. He smiled, his teeth shining white against his tanned face. "Jason," he introduced himself, extending a hand. Our handshake lingered just a moment longer than it should have. Over coffee later that evening, we shared our dreams, passions, and histories. Jason spoke of his love for travel and his job as an architect, which had him building dreams for others. I talked about my love for books and my small bookstore downtown. Our whirlwind romance was nothing short of a fairy tale. From surprise dates to long drives without destinations, every moment was magic. Within moment was magic. Within months, Jason was down on one knee at the same art gallery where our story began, asking if I would be his partner for life. "I want to build a life with you, Kate. Not just houses, but a home. Will you marry me?" he had said, his eyes searching mine for an answer. Tears glistened in my eyes as I nodded. "Yes, Jason. Yes." The next few months were a blur of wedding preparations. As the big day approached, I felt like the happiest woman on earth. But there was a shadow that soon made its presence felt. Jason, usually so attentive and caring, became more distant. "Is everything okay?" I asked one evening as we went through our guest list. He rubbed his temples, looking worn out. "It's just the wedding stress, Kate. Everything will be fine after the ceremony." I wanted to believe him, but on the day of our wedding, amidst the joy and celebration, I noticed a woman. She was always around Jason, their conversations a little too intimate. However, I told myself that perhaps she was an old friend, and I was just being overly cautious. That evening, as we wrapped up our wedding, I decided to shove those nagging feelings aside. After all, Jason was now my husband, and we were about to start our life together. Little did I know the turn our story would soon take. Our honeymoon destination was a place neither of us had been before, a secluded island nation known for its pristine beaches, verdant hills, and rich history. As our plane descended, I looked out of the window to see vast expanses of turquoise waters shimmering in the sunlight, interrupted by tiny islands dotted with lush greenery. The airport was abuzz with other honeymooners, families, and solo travelers. We were quickly ushered into a cab that would take us to our resort. The driver, an older gentleman named Leo, narrated tales of the island's legends and folklore, occasionally pointing out landmarks and sharing tidbits. "You two make a lovely couple," Leo commented, glancing at us through the rearview mirror. "How long have you been married?" "Just a week," Jason replied, taking my hand in his. His earlier coldness seemed to have melted away, and the man I fell in love with was back. The resort was breathtaking. Nestled on the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean, it promised luxury and relaxation. As we were escorted to our suite, the vast expanse of the sea stretched out before us. The room was adorned with flower petals, and the balcony opened up to the serene sounds of waves crashing onto the shore. "I can't believe we're here," I whispered, taking in the view. Jason wrapped an arm around my waist. "It's just the start, Kate. We have our whole lives ahead of us." Over the next few days, we explored the island, indulging in local cuisine, diving into clear waters, and dancing to local tunes. The island seemed to cast a spell on us. Each night, we'd return to our suite, tired, yet exhilarated, recounting our day's adventures. One evening, while we dined by the beach, Jason looked deep into my eyes. "Kate, I know I've been distant, but this trip, it's made me realize how much I need you. Let's make the most of it." Relieved, I nodded. I felt it too, the distance. The island's magic was working on us, healing the small cracks that had appeared in our relationship. But as the days went on, little did I know that an old wound was about to be reopened, changing the course of our journey together. One sunny morning, as we were sipping our coffee by our balcony, I scrolled through social media and came across a picture of Sarah, my childhood best friend. The caption read, "New Beginnings in Paradise." The backdrop looked eerily familiar. "Jason, look!" I exclaimed, showing him the picture. "Sarah's here, on this island." He raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "The same Sarah you used to have those endless sleepovers with?" I nodded, excitement bubbling within. "I haven't seen her in years. What are the odds?" Jason leaned over, dropping a kiss on my forehead. "Why don't you message her? Maybe you too can catch up." Taking his advice, I sent Sarah a message, and within minutes, she responded with equal enthusiasm. It turned out she was only a short drive away, having moved to the island for work. "It would be so lovely to see you, Kate," she texted. Plans were swiftly made for a meetup that evening. As I dressed up, Jason walked over, adjusting his watch. "I was thinking, since you'll be catching up with Sarah, maybe I can explore the town tonight." I met his eyes, a little surprised. "Are you sure?" He grinned. "Absolutely. You girls need your time. Besides, I've heard of this local jazz bar. Thought I'd give it a shot." As the evening sun cast a golden hue over the island, I met Sarah at a quaint cafe. Our reunion was filled with laughter, hugs, and endless stories. Time seemed to fly, and the cafe transformed from a sunlit haven to a cozy nighttime retreat. Sarah spoke of her life on the island, her job, and the new friends she'd made. She had a spark in her eyes, a clear indication of her love for her new home. "The island healed me, Kate," she shared, her voice soft. "After the breakup, I needed a fresh start, and this place, it just called out to me." I squeezed her hand, memories of our teenage years flooding back. "I'm so proud of you, Sarah. You've always been the brave one." The hours ticked by, and before we realized, it was almost midnight. Sarah insisted I stay over, but I declined, thinking of Jason and our honeymoon suite. "I should head back," I said, gathering my things. "Jason will be waiting." Sarah hugged me tightly. "It was wonderful catching up, Kate. Let's not let years pass by again." Promises to meet again were made, and I made my way back to the resort, reminiscing about the past, unaware of the storm that awaited me. The resort was quieter as I approached, with only the distant murmurs of the sea and the rustling of leaves as companions to my thoughts. The memories of the past evening with Sarah were a pleasant weight on my mind, and the anticipation of sharing them with Jason filled me with a warm glow. However, as I neared our suite, an unfamiliar sound began to creep into my awareness. Soft laughter, muted whispers, and then, unmistakably, a woman's giggle. A cold wave of dread washed over me, making my steps hesitant. The noise seemed to be coming from our room. As I reached the door, I paused, pressing my ear to it. I could hear Jason's voice mingling with another, softer, feminine one. They were sharing a joke, and the ensuing laughter felt like a dagger through my heart. With trembling hands, I slowly inserted the keycard, hoping against hope that there was an innocent explanation. As the door opened a crack, the sight that met my eyes felt like a surreal nightmare. Jason was on the couch, a glass of wine in hand, the same woman from our wedding seated dangerously close to him. Their body language spoke volumes, the intimacy, the comfort, the familiarity. My heart raced. thoughts scrambling for an explanation, any explanation that would not mean betrayal. Pushing the door further, they both looked up, startled. The woman's eyes widened in shock, but Jason's reaction was different. He seemed caught, like a deer in headlights, his face pale. "Kate," he began, rising from the couch, but I raised a hand to stop him. The woman scrambled to her feet, adjusting her dress. "I should go," she murmured, darting past me with a downcast gaze. The silence in the room was suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat, thudding loudly in my ears. Jason ran a hand through his hair, struggling to find the right words. "I can explain," he finally said, his voice shaky. My voice, when it came out, was cold, devoid of emotion. "Can you? Because from where I stand, it looks pretty clear to me." He took a step towards me. "Kate, please, it's not what it looks like." "You have 5 minutes, Jason," I whispered, steeling myself for the story that would come. Whether it would be the truth or another lie, only time would tell. But what was clear in that moment was the crack in the foundation of a relationship, a fissure that threatened to bring everything crashing down. Jason began, his voice shaky. "She's..." But I barely heard him. The room felt suffocating, the walls closing in. I needed space. Air! A moment to collect my thoughts. I turned towards the door, ready to step out when a thought struck me. I glanced at our suitcases lying by the entrance, the perfect opportunity for a more impactful exit. "I'm leaving," I stated, voice low and controlled. "Kate, please," Jason pleaded. "Just listen to me." I wasn't listening anymore. My focus was on the suitcases. Jason's passport, tickets, and other essential documents were in the front pocket of his bag. I had seen him place them there earlier. Without uttering another word, I unzipped the pocket and swiftly removed them. Adding my essentials to my bag, I made for the exit. I could feel Jason's gaze on me, heavy with a mix of confusion, regret, and disbelief. "Kate?" he called out as I reached the door. "Where are you going?" "You should have thought about the consequences before tonight," I replied coldly. With that, I stepped out, leaving Jason behind in the suite. The corridors were dimly lit and empty, the silence echoing my tumultuous emotions. I quickly made my way to the resort's reception. A friendly receptionist greeted me with a smile, but the look on my face must have alarmed her. "Is everything okay, Mom?" she asked. "I need to check out," I said, my voice firm. She hesitated for a moment, perhaps sensing the urgency in my demeanor. "Right away, Mom. And transportation?" "A cab to the airport, please." As I waited for the cab, the weight of the evening's events began to sink in. What was supposed to be a dream honeymoon was now a nightmare. The drive to the airport was a blur, the picturesque landscapes now mere shadows in the night. I booked the earliest flight home, hoping to put as much distance as possible between the island, Jason, and the heartbreak. As the plane took off, leaving the island beneath a canopy of stars, I felt a strange mix of emotions: hurt, anger, determination. I wasn't running away. I was reclaiming my narrative. This wasn't the end of my story, just a new chapter. The familiar hum of the city greeted me as I landed. Although it was home, the skyline seemed foreign, its familiarity overshadowed by the cloud of recent events. I hailed a cab, and as the city streets rolled by, a plan began to form in my mind. I wasn't just going to fade into the background, heartbroken and defeated. I had taken the first step in reclaiming my life by leaving the island. Now, it was time to secure my future. The week that followed was eerily quiet. There were no calls or messages from Jason. Maybe he was too embarrassed, or perhaps he was still trying to find his way out of the situation. I took the time to consult with a lawyer to ensure that if things went south legally, I'd be prepared. It was on the 8th day that my phone finally rang with a familiar, now unwelcome, tone. I glanced at the screen. Jason calling. Taking a deep breath, I answered, "Hello." "Cade, where the hell are you? Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I think the bigger question is, how could you betray me like that?" I countered coldly. There was a momentary silence. "I never meant for any of this to happen, Kate." "But it did, Jason. You made your choices. Now you live with them." "What about my passport and tickets?" "I have them, safe and sound," I replied, a hint of satisfaction in my voice. There was a deep sigh on the other end. "What do you want, Kate?" "I want a divorce," I said without hesitation. "And until that's finalized, you won't see your passport." For a long moment he was silent. "I never imagined you'd do something like this." "Well," I replied, "there's a lot you didn't know about me." The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal consultations, paperwork, and setting things in motion. Friends and family were shocked by the sudden turn of events, but rallied around me, providing the support I needed. 6 grueling months later, news reached me that Jason had finally managed to return. No doubt, after a series of challenges and hurdles. Our divorce proceedings were swift, given the circumstances, and I made sure I was legally protected in every way possible. As I signed the final papers, putting an end to our brief, tumultuous marriage, I realized that this experience, as painful as it was, had given me a strength I never knew I possessed. I had taken control of my destiny, and in the face of adversity, emerged not as a victim, but as a survivor. The city's skyline never looked the same again. Every building, every street corner seemed to echo the memories of a life that was. But as the days turned into weeks, and weeks into weeks, and weeks into months, the pain began to fade, replaced by a sense of newfound freedom. I immersed myself in work, throwing every ounce of energy into my bookstore. It became more than just a place for books. It was a sanctuary for lost souls, much like mine, seeking refuge in the comforting embrace of literature. One evening, as I was arranging a new collection of novels, Sarah walked in. Her surprise visit from the island was a breath of fresh air. We sat amidst the rows of books, coffee in hand, reminiscing about the past and sharing recent events. "You've changed, Cade," she observed, sipping her coffee. I smiled wistfully. "It's been a journey, Sarah. One I never expected to take, but sometimes life's detours lead us to where we truly belong." Sarah nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "And Jason?" I hesitated for a moment. I heard he started over, trying to rebuild his life. "And you?" she probed gently. "I've found peace," I said, looking around the bookstore. "This place, the people, the stories, they've healed me." Sarah placed a comforting hand on mine. "You always were a fighter, Kate." The months that followed were a testament to my growth. While Jason struggled to find his footing, facing the consequences of his choices, I blossomed. The bookstore thrived, becoming a community hub. I organized events, readings, and even started a book club. The bonds I forged with my customers went beyond mere transactions. They were connections built on shared experiences, stories, and dreams. As for love, I was wary, the scars of betrayal still fresh. But life, in its unpredictable way, had other plans. On a rainy afternoon, a man walked into the store, looking for a recommendation. Our conversation started with books, but quickly delved into shared interests, dreams, and aspirations. Mark, as I came to know him, became a frequent visitor, and our bond deepened. One evening, as we sat in the bookstore's cozy corner, Mark looked into my eyes. "You've been through a lot, Kate, but I promise, with me, you'll only know respect and love. I smiled. Heartful. I believe you, Mark. The chapter with Jason had closed, but a new one, filled with hope and promise, had just begun. The pain of the past had carved a path for a brighter, happier future, and I was ready to embrace every moment of it.